Hi, Nigel. Hope you guys are hearing me okay. Tracy Hackshaw here.
Yes, we are.
I have a couple of slides. Would that be okay to share my screen? Yeah, I hope so.
Yes, I think we can allow that.
All right, let's see what happens. Share, yeah, should do it. Go to flow. All right. Hope you're seeing the screen now. Yes, I think you are.
Yes, we are.
All right, I don't want to take too much time, so I would just share with you the highlights of what we did in 2021. So as I guess most of the events that would have happened since March last year to this year have been virtual. So this was our first IGF that was completely virtual. We had remote participation ever since we started in 2017, but for 2021, we went completely virtual. For 2020, I think we were one of the first IGFs, or the last IGFs, I should say, who was able to do a actual face-to-face event in 2021, in 2020, I should say. And so we now virtual in 2021, which I think is interesting because it opened up a whole new avenue of opportunities for participation from other sectors. And we did see a lot more people coming in from the region and from other parts of the world actually to participate in our event. Even though we did have remote participation prior to this, but I think the fact that we were all virtual would have driven this thinking. So our theme for 2021, as you see on the screen, digitalization, the new norm. I'd like to recognize, obviously, our partners. For those who are not aware of what a TTIGF is, we are obviously Trinidad Internet Governance Forum from Trinidad and Tobago, but we are a flagship event of the Trinidad and Tobago Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group, which was conceived of and has been coordinated primarily by the Trinidad and Tobago Network Information Center, TTNIC, who is the CCTLD or for the .tt domain and for Trinidad and Tobago. We'd like to thank TTNIC for its ongoing support. We are a multi-stakeholder group, as our name says, that incorporates stakeholders from a wide range of stakeholders in Trinidad and Tobago, public sector, private sector, academia, technical community, and civil society. And I think we really I think we're one of the few CCTLDs in the region who have something like this. And I'd like to encourage other CCTLDs to perhaps work alongside their stakeholder organizations, or if there's none, to maybe help create one, so that we can, get a sort of a standardized approach to the IGFs running throughout the region that would be, truly multi-stakeholder in our nature. Of course, in 2021, we want to recognize our partnerships with Microsoft and with ICANN, who have kindly continued to partner with us. And we've also had partnerships with the United Nations IGF Secretariat in doing our work. Essentially, our 2021 IGF took place on 2 days. We split it across 2 days. Obviously, it is a bit of a challenge. I know you guys are doing it for the whole day, but it's obviously a bit of a challenge to have an entire day dedicated to an event, especially virtually. So we tried to split it across 2 days. First time we've done that, we did it between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m., 28th and 29th January 2021. And this consisted of 4 panel discussions addressing the overall theme, digitalization, the new norm. The 4 panels were, as you see there on the screen, and I'll just go through them each of them here. Digitalization, the multi-stakeholder approach. And we attempted to get panelists from as many sectors as we possibly could. It was moderated by one of our directors in the TT Mag, Danny Jagannath, and we did have quite good participation and take-up on understanding what the multi-stakeholder approach meant for digitalization in Trinidad and Tobago, and I would imagine the region as well as a whole. One of the things that would have come out in a session such as this is really how the various stakeholders can work together to drive and participate fully in this thrust towards digital transformation and digitalization. And for those who might not be aware of what the term digitalization means, it really is the next step beyond what is also somewhat confusing, digitization, which is the conversion that makes our life simple, the conversion of analog to digital. So converting, for example, paper documents to electronic documents would be a digitization project, where digitalization would be the overall transformation of your business processes from the back to the front and in between, to really move to a digital first mindset, which is the harbinger of digital transformation. So we did our first panel discussing this digitalization approach and how multi-stakeholders across the spectrum from public, private, academia, civil society, and the technical community can work together. And our key discussants were Peter Davis from Peter Davis and Associates out of, I believe it was Canada, also in North America. Maria Daniel, who is the chair of the FinTech Association of Trinidad and Tobago, FinTech TT, of which I'm also a director of. And we also had Dr. Sean Rock of the University of the West Indies, but who is also the chairman of IGOV TT. Our second session, cybersecurity and the new norm. We had quite a range of discussions and panelists here, really focusing on what the new normal, as the phrase that has been picked up recently, post COVID-19 would look like, especially given the challenges that more people working at home, more people doing online learning, online schooling, and generally more people participating in the digital economy, what risks and what threats that might potentially bring to the table, but not only threats, but how can we as a multi-stakeholder community provide support and guidance to overcome and deal with these potential threats, and provide guidance to users who need to treat with these potential threats going forward. So in this session, we had our moderator, Mr. George Corbin, who is another director of our TT Mag, and we had Dr. Rajendra Singh from the University of the West Indies, who's a system engineer, Kerry Ann Barrett, who many of you might be aware or know quite well, who is from the Organization of American States as a cybersecurity program lead, Anish Beatru from the TT CERT, the Trans-Tobago Cybersecurity Incident Response Team. He's a security analyst there, and Nicholas Anatoniello, who is from ICANN as a Regional Technical Engagement Manager. Our third session, Tech and Education, Revolutionizing Education for Digital World, moderated by Vijay Sami, a former director. He's no longer director of TT Mag, but he's one of our colleagues who has migrated since. Vijay moderated a panel that included Jacqueline Morris, who is the e-learning manager, the Judiciary of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Dev Gosai, a director of the TT Mag, and also an education practitioner in his own right, a former acting principal and vice principal of Naprima College, retired. If you enjoy your time on Dev, he's online. Shiva Maraj, who is an educational technologist and founder, director, and chief operations officer of a private sector organization called ICT Experts Limited, and Felipe M. Noguera, who I don't see on our slide and our image, but he's a telecommunications consultant from TSTT. And again, what we try to do in this session is break or get more granular to this issue of what's happening in this educational revolution that's been going on especially the last 18 months, as the pandemic drove more and more teaching, learning, and schooling online. What that meant for all the participants, all the players, administrators, teachers, and especially students. And I don't mean students only in the in the way we perceive them as, young people, people who are of a certain age, but also learners beyond the traditional cohorts of primary, secondary, and even tertiary, the young tertiaries, the adult education and lifelong learning set. So we also take a look at that, and again, on a successful panel discussion. And our final discussion, and someone who looks familiar there, myself, moderating a session on the specific issue of digital entrepreneurship. What we try to do in that session is bring together, and specifically a series of practitioners who have been involved in digital entrepreneurship, focusing directly on what is exactly happening in this space and how we can drive new thinking and a new economic paradigm over and beyond where we currently sit in the region, in our traditional spaces, but also taking a look at what's been happening in the digital economy and digital entrepreneurship. So in this session, we had Karen Rose, who is a mobile expert and founder for Droid Island, who is also known as a tech educator. Ajay Archer, who is the co-founder and CEO of UnQ, which is one of the companies that would have emerged during the pandemic in Trinidad and Tobago, one of the companies that would have started this part of the sharing and delivery economy aspects. People who are, looking to move their businesses from brick and mortar to try and do a hybrid approach. So click and pay and pick up, those kinds of things. As well as delivery approaches. So he's one of the founders of one of those startups that emerged in Trinidad and Tobago. Camille Abrahams, who is known to many of you as a driver of the animation sector in Trinidad and Tobago, one of the key drivers, and what the pandemic and this new digital economy means for animators who are essentially working towards offering services offshore. So that's a different thinking. So not only would you work to do things within your own economy, serving your local markets, but also what about serving international markets from home, from your home country? And that is that nearshoring, offshoring discussion has been going on for several years, but has really taken flight, I think, during the pandemic, where because of, I guess, restrictions in travel and other restrictions, many of the business opportunities that would have emerged that may have been a bit challenging before, not as open, have become very much open now. There's a much wider market, much wider acceptance of smaller companies working within Caribbean territories, Caribbean islands, Trinidad and Tobago, and offering services outside of the country to larger organizations like in the animation sector, the large animation studios, gaming studios, and so on around the world. And also we had Roxanne Kothras, who was focusing on her startup, which is what you might call a traditional startup in the sense of e-commerce. But what she is doing is aggregating the people who may not have been, really able to put an online storefront up on their own, trying to put something together for them. These are people like arts and crafts, small MSMEs. People might have gone on Facebook Marketplace ordinarily. People might have gone to eBay or even Amazon, but create a space for them in the Caribbean and from Trinidad and Tobago where they can offer their goods and services with the relevant payment platform and logistics support to offer those goods and services outside of their country, Trinidad and Tobago, St. Vincent, other Caribbean territories, etc. So in a nutshell, that's I don't want to get into too much detail because I know there are others coming up. What's in 2021, and I'll probably hand back for now to you, Nigel, for others to
yeah. Thank you, Tracy. You can consider whether there are any specific points you might want to offer us here in the CIGF. We'll have a general discussion coming up towards lunchtime. Consider whether anything from your recent IGF that you might want to recommend to CIGF to follow up on or discuss in this either now or in our ongoing online discussion. So thank you very much. The next presenter is the last one we'll have for this year from the Caribbean, as far as the Caribbean IGF is concerned. And it's, we'll hear from the St. Vincent and the Grenadines IGF. The representative will be Mr. Marcellus Constance. Marcellus is actually works with the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but he also played a leading role, in fact, in the work of putting together the SVG IGF. So Marcellus, you are invited to speak.
Good morning. Yes, thank you for the introduction. Just a brief correction. I currently work with the Telecommunications regulator.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. It is NTRC. Yeah. Is NTRC St. Vincent? Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. So thank you very much for giving the opportunity to present on the IGF in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I just wanted to share my screen.
Yep.
Okay. So just apologize. There's heavy rainfall where so if you hear some background noise, that's the reason for that. Okay. So yes, so I am presenting on the IGF in St. Vincent and Grenadines. But before I actually go on to the events that happened this year, just want to give you a brief background of what happened since we started in 2018. We had our inaugural event and we invited the private sector, the public sector to attend, and we spoke on various issues, talking about understanding the internet ecosystem, internet governance, and building resilience for the internet. And also a hot topic at that time was net neutrality, so we had discussions on that. And this event was attended by the then Secretary General of the CTU, who we would have awarded at that time for her participation and the work that she would have been doing in the CTU. Into 2019, we targeted students of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College. So basically we targeted the youths this time, and we spoke on security and IoTs. It was something emerging. So we decided to have these things discussed, given that IoTs are generally not built with security in mind. So we wanted to have this discussion amongst the younger population about these devices and what considerations should be taken in terms of using these modern technology devices. In 2020, unfortunately, we had the pandemic that hit us. We normally have our IGF events in April, but at that time, I think we had our first COVID case and we did not know how to treat it. So we decided that we would have had the IGF later that year. However, it so happened that our general elections would happen later that year. So the ISOC board decided that it may not be the best thing to have it at that time, given that we will be competing heavily with the events of the general elections and the participation may not have been that great. All right, so fast forward to 2021 and things didn't seem any much better. Cases of COVID increased. We had issues of dengue fever. A lot of schools had to close. So students were at home, even when we think that the COVID cases, then we could have had them to go back to school, then they had to go back home because of dengue fever. And then in April, April 9th, we had our eruptive stage of our volcano going down. All right, so we were already planning to have a IGF in April, but obviously we had to postpone it because a lot of members would have been involved in some measure of aiding in the relief work in St. Vincent and the Grenadines for those who were displaced because approximately about 20,000 persons were displaced. So given all of these events, we found it fitting to have our IGF that was targeted to these disasters that would have impacted us. So the theme was the use of emerging technologies for disaster resilience. Now, this event, we had to have it online. We had the presenters, most presenters were in one location, but most of the participants were attended online via Zoom, and it was also streamed live via Facebook and YouTube. Okay, so it was 2 days, and we decided to have the event during the afternoon period in attempts to get the attention of as much persons as possible outside of their working hours. So we had it from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on July 14th and July 15th. So on the first day, we basically, we were targeted at mobile payments, so that the discussion was surrounded about around that. But before that happened, we had some remarks from the NIGF. Mr. Masango, I am not so good at pronouncing names, but I hope I got it right. So he provided his remarks, and he acknowledged what we would have gone through, and then commended us for our strength and resilience. So following that, we had presentations from the Financial Services Authority, who basically give us a rundown of their operations and mobile payment systems, the regulations relating to those systems. Also, we had a presentation from Mr. Malo Brown of PSWIFT, that is a local mobile payment system provider. The discussion around this was rather interesting because this service was in place, I think, for 2 years prior. And the founder indicated that it was rather difficult to sell his product to local businesses because they did not see a need for it. However, when COVID hit, he started to see increase, well, businesses started to see a need for it. And even more so, when the volcano erupted, that system was used increasingly for sending aid to St. Vincent and Grenadines from persons overseas. All right. Unfortunately, what happened as a result of that is that financial institutions saw an increase in transactions, and basically local banks, because of their relationships with those institutions, had to shut their service down. And this spurred a lot of discussion. Persons were upset about this because persons who could not have received aid through it, or persons overseas abroad, didn't really have that opportunity to send aid to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So we had a healthy discussion about mobile payment systems and the discussion around that, and also other payment platforms that we would expect to be available in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but are not, right? For example, like PayPal and so on. We had that discussion about these systems and being able to receive payments and sell local businesses to sell goods overseas. So we spoke about that, and also then we talked about the Dcash that would have launched in St. Vincent just a week or two ago, I believe. I heard one person would have mentioned, because that initially Dcash did not plan to do the pilot in St. Vincent and Grenadines, but since the volcanic eruptions, then they decided to have that system in place. So some persons would have said, well, these disasters brought something good to the country, never mind that persons who were displaced, but persons saw the need, and these modern solutions are now being adopted in St. Vincent and Grenadines. right? On the second day, we had a presentation from the local coordinator for the digital transformation project. So he gave us basically an overview of what the project is about to do and how it's going to transform St. Vincent and the Grenadines and also the region. Also, there was discussion about education, which was a hot topic because, as I would have mentioned, there was dengue fever and there was COVID-19, and students that were unable to attend classes in person and were unable to attend from home, either because of lack of devices, internet connectivity, or the schools not having the platforms available so that students can attend classes remotely. So Mr. Petrus Gums was one of the presenters and also the founder of STEM SVG, Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. He would have developed a platform prior to these disasters whereby students could have attended classes virtually, online afternoon classes. So he spoke about this and also initiatives that he would have taken at his learning institution. So by the time that the students were displaced, that the school could have continued operating without any delays. All right, so that was discussed. And also we had two gentlemen who are normally host a weekly television program called Technoblog, where they discuss emerging technologies. And basically the discussion was about the adoption of these technologies and businesses who would have been a little slow in the uptake of using simple technologies such as cloud storage and being able to work remotely and that kind of stuff. So that the discussion on the second day was kind of mixed, but we had quite a healthy discussion on that. And after our local presentations, then we had Anya Gengo, who would have given us a quick flash from the NIGF and invited participants and others to attend the IGF in December of 2021, right? Oh, so what made this year's event unique? And I just want to highlight some of the things because these were not done before. We basically held it online. It was after working hours. We had 2 days of presentation. So basically the disasters allowed us or pushed us to have these things done. Okay, so just some quick statistics. Something I want to highlight then, the in-person participation, we decided that we had to keep it below 10 because we wanted to adhere to the Ministry of Health and guidelines in terms of having indoor events. Our online participants were just under 30 on each day. The blue is the first day and the green is the second day. It was just under 30. And we had a survey with just over 10 persons who would have responded. So yeah, I'm sharing these to say that, yes, we have the ISOC is much more than 30, but there is an issue about having participation amongst members and other stakeholders. That is something that we are trying to look at to improve in future IGFs. And based on our survey, we just had a few, but almost 64% of them thought that the webinar was very informative. They scored a 5 out of 5. But although it's above half, we would like to see that in the 90s. So we are looking into ways for the future IGFs to see how we can improve that to engage with stakeholders and get the relevant discussion points and topics so that we can improve on the IGFs in the future. So yes, that is the synopsis on the IGF intendants and guardians. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Marcellus. And you certainly raised, I certainly heard the issue of financial inclusion there.
Yeah.
In the CIGF, and I admire the resiliency shown as well in having the event and adapting it to the situation with all the restrictions and constraints. So congratulations on that.